Good evening, Manchester. You're listening to the Weekly Dion on 95.3 FM WMNH. I am your host, Ben Dion. My dad is joining us tonight. Dad, how's it going?
Very good. How you doing, Ben?
I'm feeling pretty taco-y today.
You're pretty taco-y. There's a lot of tacos out
Lots of tacos. We're right in the middle of the Taco Tour 2019 put on by In Town Manchester. If you haven't come downtown, make sure you come down and check it out. They're going until 9 p.m. tonight.
Yes, they are.
There's long lines, lots of people. But all that matters right now is the show. Because if you're on the Taco Tour, you should put the show on somewhere so that people will listen to it.
Absolutely.
But we have a very special guest tonight. A guest that I met at an event, and I'm gonna forgive you for who introduced us, which we'll get into that later on. But we have Miss Amber Cannan from Uncharted Tutoring.
Hello.
How's it going?
Wonderful. The Taco Tour is a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun.
Have you had any yet?
I did. I mostly had dessert tacos.
Ooh.
Well, Baked right
Danger
now,
zone.
we can see the line from Baked over here.
Theirs was really good.
They're across
Oh, you
Elm
had
Street.
one from Baked?
I got there early, so the line wasn't too bad.
Which one? Which one do they have?
They have a cream cheese cake, like with
Ooh.
Oreo crumbles and chocolate drizzled on top, and it's like it's the perfect meltedness, so that it's like not freezing. You know, when cheesecake is too stiff, it almost looked like ice cream.
Wow.
It sent me to a new place.
So, Dad, I need you to go on assignment to Baked right now to go get some.
So I have to leave the show and go to get it.
And in a second, you might have to.
All right.
We should have some delivered. That's what I should have done. Set up a delivery service. Maybe. I don't know. If you're listening, you can bring some up to us if you want. If you really want to, I'll give you the code to get in.
Yeah, right.
But we have the Taco Tour going on tonight. It's a big event for Manchester. One of the biggest, I think, of the year. And I'm glad you can make it down. It's a tough event to kind of go around to come on the show. But you came here early.
I did. I came really early, got my parking spot.
Good. And that was the key thing, the parking.
I think that's the tough part in an event like tonight since Elm Street's closed.
Quite especially.
If you're coming downtown, please avoid Elm Street. Park off of Elm Street. It's closed from Bridge all the way to Granite, the Granite Lake area. So make sure you park elsewhere. We parked, Chestnut. So avoid those areas, but the other parking is available, and you'll see the signs, see the people directing traffic. So, but we're going to talk a lot about what's going on Uncharted, but I do want people to know who you are first. So, Amber, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm a biomedical illustrator to focus my background, and I spent several years in pharmaceutical industry doing what's called informed consent documents and patient education, recruitment, that kind of thing. Moved along, worked in pharmaceuticals for several years, and wasn't feeling very fulfilled. So that's what led to Uncharted Tutoring. And so I've been in Manchester for about 10 years next month.
Nice.
Around 10.
Cool. So the fun question is, when you're not busy in the classroom, and we're going to get to some things over here what my dad has in front of him, which we'll get to later on. We're going to see him play with some of these things, which is kind of cool.
I love to play.
But when you're not, busy, I guess, what do you like to do for fun here in Manchester, besides go to the Taco Tour?
Other than taco tours, I love gardening.
Nice.
I have a very large vegetable garden in downtown Manchester in front of my studio.
Cool.
And I've got tulips and daffodils. I planted 280 bulbs this fall.
Whoa.
So
Jeez.
my yard is really alive with color right now. And so I'm growing things like Brussels sprouts, sunflowers.
Wow.
I'll never
kale.
forget the first time we grew Brussels sprouts. We had no clue. The leaves were ginormous and this big root coming out of the earth. And that's where the sprouts are.
I know, they're right in the notch of the leaf. I didn't know that either. I was just I like eating Brussels sprouts, so I'm going to plant some, and it was surprising.
It was an eye-opening situation.
Kind of like okra, if you know how that grows.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I don't even know what okra is.
It's an elongated vegetable that again grows in the notch between the leaf and the bush.
I've
It's
never.
slimy.
I don't think I've
It's
ever even
slimy.
had okra in anything. Is that like celery?
I would not describe the flavor as celery.
But does it look like celery?
It's green.
Sort of.
No, more like bamboo shoots,
Oh,
like the
okay.
flowery kind of when you slice it.
Yeah.
It kind of looks like a pepper, but it's fuzzy and it's thick. And
You're not making me want to eat one.
No, I don't recommend it. I've tried it so many different
Okay.
ways.
I just want to make sure you know that I'm not going to eat one just from
No.
that description.
I wouldn't.
So gardens, I like that. That's a new one.
Yes.
Most people say a restaurant, they like to go for walks or skiing, but I like that gardening. My dad likes that too. He likes to grow things.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I spent this weekend turning my beds, trying to get down about a foot and a half down under the ground and pouring my compost and then putting the dirt on top of it.
Cool.
So I do one bed a weekend, so it takes me a month.
Nice. That's cool. Next big question. This is the killer right here. You could describe Manchester in one word. What would that be and why?
So I did a lot of research.
Good.
I thought about this really hard. I would use the word ripe.
Ripe.
Yes.
Like a garden.
I know. It was the perfect lead-in.
I like that.
I think that there's so much poised to move forward. There are so many of the right players, kind of taking stock of Manchester and adding things to it, investing in it, growing things. And that's where I really see it from, you see more young people really starting to take root. I'm seeing that. And I just think it's right there, right before you eat it. You know what I mean? Like,
I like that. It's a pivotal point.
Yes,
I like
exactly.
that. That's a different word too.
Yeah, we haven't. Nobody said that one yet.
Yeah,
That's the first time.
Because you've kept track of all of them.
I'm kind of in my mental brain.
Yeah, mental brain. Yeah, you get a brain over there in
We'll
front of you.
talk about that later.
Yeah, we'll get to how
You know,
the
Amber,
brain.
what I'd like to know something is where were you born? Where'd you hail from?
I was born in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Cool.
Nothing wrong with that. I've been there.
I grew up a military brat, so I moved 23 times by the time I was 18.
Wow.
Not uncommon though.
No, not uncommon at all. I spent a little time in Korea. The longest I ever lived any place was Hawaii, actually.
Nice.
So
Oh, that must have been bad.
oh, it was awful. It was awful. We'll learn more. My education background, I was actually homeschooled there, which is really wonderful because what's an oceanography day or a marine biology day but going to the beach?
Absolutely. Wow.
I had a friend that went to the University of Hawaii, and I went to
Rainbow Warriors.
I stayed in New Hampshire. I went to NHTI in Concord for 2 years. So the first 2 years, when we had snowstorms, he would send me pictures of himself studying on the beach.
What an evil person.
I can't tell you what I would send him back as a picture, but it was one of my fingers.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was just like, you jerk.
He was styling on you, on the beach in Hawaii, and you're freezing cold.
Pre-med at Hawaii. Life is rough.
Oh,
Yeah, really.
so difficult.
Very difficult. But we'll move on to our first segment, kind of get into what you do, and we'll get into some fun stuff over there. I'm excited for this.
I'm expecting something to jump out at me any second.
Okay, I don't do surprise scares. I admit.
It's okay if you do that. That's fine.
Well, you never know what could be
Ben would
with the
enjoy it.
zombies.
This is good. I should have had you come on for the birthday show.
Oh, man.
That would have been great.
I do birthdays.
Ooh, there you go. But we'll move into our first segment. Just to remind you, you're listening to the Weekly Dion on 95.3 FM WMNH. If you want to call in and join our conversation with Amber, call in at 603-250-6007. You can also call in and give us your feelings on the taco tour. If you're live at the taco tour, feel free to call in and give us a little inside information because we'll be talking about that later on. But feel free to call in anytime. But we'll move on to our first segment, which is called the Downtown Lowdown. In the Downtown Lowdown, we talk to more about our guests and what they do in Manchester, and also we'll get to some events a little bit later on because there's tons of going on downtown right now, especially with this taco tour. But Amber, we met each other at an event over at Two Share Brewing, which I got to go back there.
I love it there.
It's really cool.
I really like the people.
Yeah, thank you. It's the people.
It's the people, and it's my neighborhood because my studio is right around the corner. So
that's dangerous.
It's
very dangerous.
We've had to, budget.
Rein it in.
Budget.
Yeah.
But they're really great people, and they really want to build that community up, and I think it's good for the neighbors. I meet neighbors there that I haven't met before, like my next door neighbors that I had not met. So I think it's really, really good for the neighborhood.
That's awesome. And they're going to be, I think, doing some outside events too as it gets nicer out. So
that's what they're working towards.
Should be good. We met at an event, and you had one strike against you because Mr. Dan Bergeron is the one that came over to me and seemed very urgent. I thought I was in trouble for a second because he came over very urgent, and he said, "Can I talk to you over here for a second?" I was like, "Okay, Dan." And we went over, and I met you, and then we talked, and we booked the show in about 2 seconds because I'd heard of your organization, and I've heard of what you did because of the after school program that I work at, because I've seen that logo, and we know Brenda.
Yes.
So we had someone in common that we knew. So that made up for you knowing Dan.
Yeah.
Kind of made up for that.
Oh, I could see that. I met him then. That was the first night I'd ever met him. He's already roped me into things.
Oh, of course.
Oh, yeah. Right.
You're roped in. Dan Bergeron meets you. You are roped in to something right away.
Oh, yeah. I think we did a Chamber of Commerce commercial for him a couple weeks later. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He's that person that finds you. We ran into him at a book signing in Boston. I said,
Boston.
Yeah. I said, Dan, I can't get rid of you.
That was wild.
That was funny because we're standing in line at it was John Kerry's book.
Kerry one. Yeah. Right.
We had a book and we had it signed, and I look over and there's Dan Bergeron across the street.
You got to have people like that because they're just always go.
I also want to say he cut the line too.
I think he did.
I never told him this, but Dan, you cut the line.
Maybe he just didn't.
He just talked to us, and I'm like, he's gonna pull this. He's gonna pull this move because there's about 50 people behind us, and he knew. He did it. Yeah, he did it. I would have done the same thing. So
we let him get away with it.
It's okay, Dan. We love you, Dan. So what do you actually do? I know a lot of people have heard this title before, and I probably when I posted on Facebook, people were like, what is this? I got to listen just to find out. So what does Uncharted do?
We combine art and science in after-school programs. We have a few programs that are in school, like in-school enrichment, but that's really like at the core of what we do. We combine art and science.
Okay.
It's that simple.
That's really cool. And those are two subjects that I feel like kind of go hand in hand.
They do. We seem to more recently have separated them in siloed education subjects, which is like kind of my not thing, if you will.
Right.
I really like to combine art and science. So I grew up thinking I had to be either an artist or go to med school, right? And it turns out I drew these really detailed things like perfume bottles in mirrored boxes and, kind of weird dead flowers were a thing too. But, your typical teenage girl stuff, except this intense detail. And so this private instructor said, hey, have you ever heard of medical illustration? You should do this. How did you do dissecting the frog? And I was like, it was great. The sports people really wanted me to do theirs for them. And I don't get squeamish at those things. So I did. I went to the Cleveland Institute of Art and got my degree in biomedical art. And yes, I sat in cadaver labs and observed the dissections. We didn't actually perform them. The med students performed them, along with a number of other dissections. What was that experience
like?
I did give up ham for a little bit.
I had to ask. I mean, really.
Other than that, it wasn't too bad. The smells, whatever. Actually, I much more enjoyed being in the live surgeries. I love the surgical theater. Yeah, watching the surgeries happen. You get to see the blood pumping and how the organs actually look. Now, the joy in observing vet surgeries is you can actually feel some of the texture because you can't do that on people.
Right.
But as long as you're scrubbed in for vets, you can actually, and that's really helpful when you're trying to draw them to communicate that to doctors.
Right.
So, yeah, I've had blood does not bother me.
Apparently.
No.
I mean, I would be passed out probably.
There's no way I could be a physician.
Yeah.
I got a real
We
problem
wouldn't want
with
you to be a physician.
Well,
you can barely drive a car. Why would I want you operating
it.
on someone over there? Jeez, I'm crow. That's really cool. And when you mentioned that to me when we first met, I was like, those things exist together.
They do.
It makes sense to me, but it's kind of cool that's actually someone figured that out to put it together, and it's very specific.
Well, you think about Leonardo da Vinci, right? He kind of got in trouble maybe for dissecting people that didn't consent to being dissected upon death, and it was kind of something they got in trouble for.
Right.
Other people, Albert Dürer, and so that just limits it though to the biology side of things, like human biology.
Right.
You think about human development over the ages, and we've been combining art and science since the dawn of time.
Right.
Cave paintings. You had to know a little bit about geology to find the dyes, the ground up powders that they would use to make their images on the walls. And I have a theory. Some of these caves with the serialized images that they have of the lions and the gazelles and the way that the light moves through the cave, I think it's early animation, and I'm not the only one who's thought this, but if moving through with a flickering light, those things begin to move just a little bit. So art and science really do belong together.
That's interesting. That's really cool.
Sounds like a marriage.
It is. Best friends forever is what I call them.
Really?
I like that. And a little history aspect too, because of how that developed over time. Mm-hmm. That's really cool. So how did Uncharted get started?
Yeah. I worked in pharmaceuticals for several years and felt fairly unfulfilled. But through a series of layoffs, as many stories begin, I started helping this one individual who was a young man, very, very skilled in science, wanted to develop art skills. And I began tutoring him one-on-one, just as a way to make money in between.
Right.
And then it turned out his mom was the headmaster of a school.
Oh, wow.
And so she brought me in to run an after-school program. Within 2 weeks, I was at another school. And then within 6 months, I was in the Manchester City after-school program's 21st Century.
Yeah.
And now I have 8 people that work with me.
That's awesome. It kind of is this trickle down of just trickle up, actually,
Yes.
because you just added all these different things. That's really cool.
There's a real hunger for it in Manchester, I feel.
Definitely. And those programs, I think, they bring something different and something that I think kids that are interested in those things but don't realize they go together
Yes.
can kind of have these aha moments and go, you do this? Like, this thing exists. That's really cool.
It's actually enlightening.
Yeah, I grew up thinking I was terrible at math. I thought I was awful. I tested in the top of the state I was in at the time, all these kinds of things, but I thought I was awful. And it gave me all kinds of nervous kind of hang-ups, if you will, about doing math and actually, and it really caused me to suffer in math.
Right.
But I'm able to run the books for my company just fine. So I figure if we can give kids excitement and thrills when you're doing something like math or science,
Right.
they won't have the same hang-ups I had. And hopefully they'll get their success earlier and happier and faster. All those kinds of things.
It'll open up their minds.
Yes.
Looking for the future.
Absolutely.
I like that. So like you said, you're in the 21st Century after school program, which that's how I ran into Brenda one day because she was filling in for someone. And I'd seen the person that was at our school before, and I'm only there twice a week, so I don't see them all the time. But I was like, Brenda, what are you doing here? She looks at me and goes, what are you doing here? She's like, you don't teach elementary school.
Nor do you want to.
Well, okay, some people want to teach elementary school. Ashley teaches elementary school.
I know, but you don't want to.
Well, no, I don't.
Okay.
It's bad enough I'm there for after school because little kids and me it's weird. I don't know how to talk. I can't be sarcastic. They don't get my jokes.
They're more sarcastic than you might
Perhaps.
think.
I've said a lot of jokes and they look at me like, is that supposed to be funny? That's the look I get. It really brings me down a little bit of like, yeah, maybe I'm not that funny.
No,
Yeah, that's the great equalizer. Children.
Yes, definitely. But we have some projects over there in front of my dad. He looks very confused.
None of this stuff's going to blow up, right?
Nothing will blow up. No, the
Well,
exploding
what about the
art
combination
program.
of this?
Now that you want to start with that one?
I'd
Okay,
like
go
to
ahead.
because it's making me really, really nervous.
Just be
Yes,
careful.
go
Don't
ahead.
spill
so
anything
open
over
both
there.
of those containers. One of them is water, and one is a mixture of ingredients. Now,
Could you tell me what those ingredients are, please?
They're all edible. I don't recommend eating it.
Okay.
But it's
edible
edible.
doesn't mean blowing up.
No, it will not blow up. There's things like salt and phylum husk and oil.
Just
a
pay
little bit of
attention what you're doing over
guar
there.
gum, yeast.
Smells all right.
There's yeast. You know, it gets a bready smell, certainly.
So the water in.
Yes, put the water in, and then you can just stir it with the back of your pen, and it's going to start to do some interesting things.
Could you describe what those interesting things are?
Yeah, so you mix it together, and it doesn't mix the way you would expect, like with bread or cake dough, perhaps.
Okay.
It actually, the guar gum in it begins to thicken, and it begins to form a mixture that looks very similar to poop.
It's a crappy situation.
So should I
over
pour
here.
it in slowly or
You can do it however you want. Pour in half to start. How about?
stir it around?
Yeah,
This
and just
is-
keep stirring.
I'm really hoping that something just pops right in his face.
It's gonna smell a little yeasty, like
Yeah, it
bread.
does. It does, yeah.
because there's yeast in that.
Most definitely.
I like this interactive show.
Yeah, it's
this
a
is
mixture
great.
that NASA uses.
It's really thickening
Really?
up, really.
Yeah, it's
I'm going to
legitimately
get the rest in.
their recipe.
Huh.
And they use this to test toilets. So NASA
Hence
astronauts.
the poop scenario.
Yes. They have to poop in
Yeah.
space. Everybody
Oh,
poops.
yes.
And
I'm sure a lot of people wonder what happens to it.
yeah, so actually, I learned this. Oh, there's so much fun in this.
You know
one.
where it goes?
Well, not right now. So right now, it ends up in a bag, sealed, compressed, and packed away.
Well,
and
if you saw
water
the
extracted.
movie The Martian,
Yes.
is that indicative of exactly how it happens?
Similar, yes.
Cool.
They're talking about for a future Mars mission that they might use human excrement in the walls of whatever spaceship because the water in it might help protect the astronauts against radiation.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's an extra second step I learned when I talked to this in Franklin City.
That's interesting.
So NASA needed something to test in their toilets because you don't want to use real fecal matter. That
Right.
could be a
No, no,
mess.
no.
Their toilets are vacuum based. Of course, they pull a little bit of vacuum so that it encapsulates the poop and does
Right.
not make a mess. And
Should I cover it?
if you wish, yes.
Yeah,
it will begin to ferment like yeast does.
Okay.
It's good that you started with that one. We have better smelling things. Don't worry.
Thank you.
And where was I? Oh, yes. So they needed a technical simulant to practice these toilets with, because you don't want to use real stuff because there's real bacteria in it.
Right.
You don't want that. So my friend who does some consulting with developing toilets for developing countries gave me that recipe. And I love using it with the kids because it's something NASA actually uses. It is their recipe.
That's so cool.
Weight by weight ratio, ingredients, everything.
That's very cool.
That's really cool. Interesting.
And I got it right here.
Yes, it's real NASA poop.
Poop, the poop, the poop.
Can we just have him come with you just to do? I think he'd be more interested. Like, I think the kids would just like to see his reaction because
good.
He's a child.
Yeah,
he might have just turned 70, but
hey, you know,
at this age,
that kind of talk is
he starts
unappreciated.
to actually regress. And he's not
There's
70.
no regression.
I was gonna wait. When does that start? Because I think I've already.
He's been there for a while too. He's about age 8 over there.
Oh yeah. See, I have another. I write lessons about poop to talk about science and combine it with art.
That's okay.
Nothing wrong with that.
Is there another one we wanna explore over there?
You pick whatever strikes your fancy, and I'll tell you about it.
This is very interesting. Zombie slime.
It is zombie slime. Go
What
ahead,
the
open
heck
it.
is that? Open it.
Open it.
Okay.
Don't
And
make
tell me
a
what
mess
you
over
smell.
there. Oh jeez, this is great right here. Just opening the container.
It is so slimy.
Whoa. How does that smell? He's taking it in. Okay, how many times are you gonna smell it?
Well, I'm evaluating it.
It's a difficult smell
you
to
know,
identify.
honestly, it smells like dirt.
Yes. So it's actually it's petrichor, which is the smell of that's bacteria release after it's been in dry dirt and it rains on it for a bit. So it's after a dry spell, very specifically.
Really? Exactly.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. So I use a couple different smells. So I use one that's earthworm, that's really gardeny smelling, mildew, of course, because if the zombies are coming up through the ground and coming at us, what do you think they're going to smell like other than the decay?
They're going to smell like dirt.
Dirt.
They're going to smell like dirt. So I mix smells into my slime. Now, in that slime, you're also going to find that there's skeletons.
I didn't look for
Yeah,
the skeletons.
I mean, I'm just saying, there's skeletons, there's glow-in-the-dark worms, there are maggots, and there are little bits and pieces that decompose. So we can talk about hematomas and how they form a bruise, right?
Right.
The decomposition and the slimy juices that occur. And
really
kids really love it.
Huh. So this is definitely not for kids that don't want to get in it with their hands.
We do provide gloves in every case, so they don't have to.
That's good because I was that kid.
Yeah.
I was the kid, and Dad can do a test over there. If I went outside and I got my hands dirty, I had to wash them.
Forget about it.
Yeah.
I wasn't even now.
I also give a stirring stick so they don't have to get their hands into it. They can just create it.
You know what?
and be
Thank you
happy.
for catering to the privileged over
Yes,
here.
I know. Latex free, of course.
Yes.
Interestingly enough, I have that same issue.
Yeah.
I must wash my hands 20 times a day.
Well,
I mean,
that's-
I can't stand dirty hands or,
That's another issue that you have.
You wouldn't want my job then.
probably not. So, we're going to do the glow slime?
Okay, yeah, so you open that one up, and it glows in the dark.
Okay, shut the lights off.
no,
I'm
don't shut
kidding.
the lights off. It would be dark enough. in
Kill
here.
the lights.
It is a thicker slime
Okay.
than the zombie slime.
Am I going to be able to recognize the odor?
This one doesn't have an odor. If you
Oh,
want one
okay.
with an odor, open that tall blue container.
I think I'll pass.
Okay, it's a different odor. It's
Okay,
candy
I'm
cane.
gonna definitely
It's
open
candy cane.
Yeah, there's nothing.
No, that one's just because it's glue, it's contact solution, and it's glow powders.
And there must be a lot of glue involved with some of these slimes.
I buy glue by the gallons.
Yeah, because I think Ashley does a glue
Mm-hmm.
or a slime project where glue is involved.
Yes.
Yeah, she does a lot of science projects actually in her class for kindergartners.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Actually, the one that's lighting up in front of you, I do with preschoolers.
Oh, this one?
Yes.
What is
That's
that?
so cool.
That's a constellation, and it lights
Looks
up,
like a
and they're
constellation.
LEDs.
Oh,
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
Ursa Minor?
That's boots. It's
Boots.
the plow.
Oh, okay.
The plow.
I should have read it. It says right there.
Yeah, it
Boots.
does. It does.
I
The
should
lights
know
are
that one.
distracting.
Ursa
I know.
Minor, yeah. Good guess.
I have those down there, but that's the one I did as the demo.
Okay.
Be careful over there.
I will.
So tell me what that one smells like.
Ooh.
I will. I love this.
He's actually having a lot more fun than I thought he would. I'm doing this to torture him, but it's not really torturing him. What does that smell like over there, Dad? He's evaluating.
It might have two smells.
Oh, geez.
I have an educated snifter.
I can tell. Why don't you stick your face closer in there? What do you
I
smell?
want to evaluate it. I'm trying to get a hand. It smells like two things, you said?
Two things, yes.
What's one of them?
Shaving cream.
Shaving cream.
Yeah.
I didn't get that
Barbasol.
part. Well, I read it, but I wouldn't have said that.
Yeah. But there is another smell in there.
There is.
Barbasol, that's very classic.
I know.
Shaving cream.
I have that in my
inexpensive.
cabinet.
Yeah. Maybe that's why you can't smell it.
It's on his face,
That's
too.
pretty funny. It's on my face, too. I wiped it off.
Uh-huh.
Actually, it kind of smells like that.
I don't know what that means.
I can't remember. Putty, not putty, but
Silly putty?
silly putty.
Well, it's going to have that smell because it's a very similar non-Newtonian compound.
Okay, that's
But-
exactly what I'm thinking.
Yeah, there's candy cane smell in it.
Huh. Interesting.
Just a little.
Yeah, it must be,
Very little.
Very
I
little.
just made it, so it hasn't had time to permeate throughout the whole thing.
we'll try it again next
Yeah,
time.
next time. So I work with, so I buy these oils from the Demeter Fragrance Library, and they have everything from mildew to petrichor to candy cane to ocean spray and everything
wow.
you can think of. And I use those in the slimes because my theory is if they're using smells to help trigger memory in Alzheimer's patients, why can't we plant them into students by giving smells with different learning experiences?
Wow.
Sounds good to me.
I like that. That's really cool.
It is. Can I eat one of these cookies?
Those are not edible. They're made
Oh,
with
my
glue.
goodness.
I had to ask. Come on.
I know. But if you pick them up and take a look at them, you'll see there's various pieces of anatomy on them.
I'm so glad that he just didn't eat one. Well, these cookies are really good.
They smell great. I use cinnamon.
Mouth D.
Yes, mouth. So the D, that's for my people who pack my lessons for me. D is for digestion. So that's in the digestion series.
Okay.
So kids can make the cookie using the cinnamon clay that we make in-house. And then they can decorate it and start to learn about chewing and saliva. That's a stomach.
Stomach.
Wow.
Yes. We
Not
also
smelly at all. There's really not that much of an
it
odor.
is sealed in, but there's cinnamon in there.
Cinnamon?
Yeah, so I put Mod Podge on the outside of my cookies so that they hold up in the classroom.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they begin to fall apart. Ooh, another stomach.
Stomach.
Now, have you done any of these lessons in high school or middle school too?
I've done some of them with some middle schoolers.
Middle schoolers.
Yes, they move through them a little bit faster, but they have as much fun. So that's a cross section of your intestine. That's what it looks like, basically on the cellular level when you give a cross section.
I've had some intestinal issues.
Well, that's
That's
what
a
it
different
looks
show.
like.
Okay.
It's a different show, Dad. That's not this show. Jeez, I'm crowing.
Well, that's actually a really good point. That's why I bring these things into the kids' classroom.
Exactly.
And so point blank, so that they can talk about their digestive issues. I grew up, my best friend, she had Crohn's disease. And it took her many years to figure out that she had it because she didn't talk about it.
Right.
And she was embarrassed. And so if we can make talking about these things a little more normal for kids,
Right.
maybe they won't go through the same experience.
I like how this, you like that one a lot.
Adorable.
I like how it's not just about creating art projects or learning about science, but it's encouraging the students to talk about whatever is going on too. And we were talking about before, we were talking about girls at work and how you guys, you know Elaine, and
I do.
that's the same thing as what they do too, because it's not just about building whatever the project is. It's about talking about what's overcoming obstacles and what obstacles are in the way. And I love those kind of things because it's not just about, it's learning on another different level
Yeah.
the whole time.
And I
Life
think
skills.
this way it enables the kids to grasp it in a different way.
Yeah.
Instead of reading about it, they're visualizing it.
They're experiencing it.
Exactly.
It's very hands-on.
Yeah. And I think that's a real plus insofar as retaining that knowledge.
Thank you. Yeah, I totally agree.
You know.
I think even health classes in high school could use these for sure in different lessons, and even the cookies would be even like a cool little thing to kind of incorporate. And I know some schools that do kind of cross collaboration. They do co-teaching with different subjects, and I've never heard of art and science together, but that makes complete sense.
I never heard of it either.
They should do that more. I know when I was at Londonderry student teaching, they had a humanities class with English and social studies. So they would co-teach. They take half of the block each and would teach something, say something in history, and then they have to write a paper about it. So half of it was learning the history of it. The other half was writing or learning how to write a paper on that subject.
That makes so much sense.
And This does too. I feel like this is something that we should bring into the school district. That would be really cool. Besides just the after school program, this is something that could be taught at a school.
Yes, I do go into schools during the day. Some of the Montessori schools around bring me in as an adjunct.
Yeah.
And me or my people run classes during the school day, and they call it their science enrichment.
That's awesome.
So I certainly do that.
Hey, Brenda.
Hi.
Thanks for popping in over here. We were just talking about you before.
We were.
Always good things.
Always.
Come on in. You can come on in.
We can sit on the couch.
Brenda Noisy is joining us, friend of Amber, and this is how we kind of got to the point where we're at, where we had her come on and turn your mic on there, and you're all set to go over there.
Woo-hoo.
Just pull the mic a little closer to you.
Hi, Brenda.
Hello, Amber Nicole.
I think you're going to enjoy this.
Have you tried any of? Oh, you teach this stuff, so you've.
Have you
Brenda
had
teaches
any of
with me.
these cookies?
Yeah.
Especially the zombie and nervous system cookie samples.
They
That sounds
are
disturbing.
not delicious. Don't eat them. They're gluten.
That's the best part. Is he look at these and he goes, "How are these cookies?"
Should I dunk?
Dunk it right in the slime.
Easy.
See how that goes for you.
I haven't tried that one before.
He's very. I think this is better than probably watching kids do it because he is the kid.
He
Over there.
seems to be having fun.
I'm having a ball. You know, honestly, to me, one of the most important things in life is to learn all the time. I mean, you spend your whole life educating yourself. How the hell can you move on without that?
You're right.
You know what I'm saying?
And you just have to have fun. You have to love it.
And I'm having a ball.
Yes.
He's gotten more into the art side of life because he
Oh,
wasn't
most
very into
definitely.
art before and
Not
really
at
didn't
all.
look at it. And he's more looked at different artists and different paintings. And hopefully,
Fell in love with Monet big time.
hopefully this month we'll be taking a trip down to Boston
Yes.
to the Museum of Fine Arts.
I can't
He's never
wait.
been there before.
No?
No.
I
No.
immediately bought 4 or 5 art books because all of a sudden I was overwhelmed with the need to look into art, which I never did before. So I got Van Gogh, Monet, Impressionists, just overall.
You have a bunch of books, art books.
yeah. And it was so great, and it was just observing the beauty of this art, which I spent 65 years not observing crap, and so far as art, now I'm really awakened to it, and I can't get enough. I mean, really,
Well, it's a
it's
great.
so beauty.
It's a
so
great time to be into art too. We have multiple galleries, and they're open right now.
Yeah.
Tutoring Taco Tour, which is great.
Mhm.
So it's a very good time to be into art in Manchester, as
It is.
well as going to Boston.
Right. I had actually planned a trip to Paris this year, but with all the stuff that's been going on, I canceled it, and I'm glad I did. But Paris will be there next year.
You'll get there.
next
I'll
year.
get there.
I think I'll get there
next
because
year.
I really want to go. I want to go to Giverny, which is where Monet's house is, and they give tours.
There's a garden.
I want to see the garden. I mean,
Isn't your
know.
credit card?
my credit card is the garden.
Is it?
Oh yeah,
My favorite
Can
thing
we
is
see your credit card?
Absolutely.
Just to prove
if you
that
need
this
to
is
use
true.
it, if you want to use it, that's cool.
just
I'm
show
okay
the
with
back
that.
of the card where the numbers are. My favorite thing is when he explains you're really going to show the card right now?
This is great.
Are you kidding me right
So
now?
glad I
We're in
came
the
in
middle
here.
of a radio show, Dad.
That's all right. Oh, it is.
it
It's
is.
true. This is true. We
It's
can verify
beautiful.
this is true. It's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
He explains the whole story behind the card every time he uses the card.
Well, that's how you educate someone.
We go to the bookery every week before the show. He's told the person that gives us our coffee every week at the bookery this story. I feel bad for her. At this point, I look at her and go, just play along. He loves talking about that. But we're going to take a trip to the Museum of Fine Arts for his birthday. Me and my sister gave him that as a gift. To
That's
kind
right.
of look around
Happy
there.
birthday. A big one too. Happy birthday.
Wasn't that
80
big.
or 70 or 90?
I
Which
mean,
one?
happy
40.
tiny birthday. Tiny birthday. It was a tiny birthday.
It was a big
the
birthday.
bottom line is I feel fantastic. So the number is irrelevant. It really is. I could just as well be 40. I
Well-
feel, that young. Kind of.
Kind of. You definitely act about
The
10.
knees don't feel it, but
There you go.
act like 10. Absolutely.
Yes, you do.
Yeah. So open up that slime. What slime have you opened up yet?
I've opened up all of them.
He
All of
did.
them?
He did.
Yeah,
And he
yeah.
made.
You
he
missed
made
all of it,
poop
Brenda.
slime.
I made
He
the
made
poop.
poop slime.
Oh, you made poop slime?
Yeah. He did.
Wait,
Fantastic.
which one? Which one?
The NASA poop.
Oh,
The NASA
the
poop.
NASA poop.
I'm all set for
Wait,
Mars.
there are multiple. There are multiple.
There are
I'm just
multiple
saying.
poop lessons. It's true.
Okay.
It's a valid question, Ben. I know you're laughing, but it's a valid question.
I like the fact that he just jumped right into it, too.
We have the cell.
He just jumped
I
all
love
into
cells.
it.
Histology is my favorite.
The best part is people are commenting on Facebook like, what is going on?
What the heck is he doing? Animal cell.
But I do want to get to some other events because we have a taco tour going on, so I want to talk a little bit about that. So we'll jump into our next segment. Just to remind you, listening to the Weekly Dion on 95.3 FM WMNH. You want to call in at 603-250-6007 and join our conversation with me, my dad, Amber, and now Brendan Noisy is joining us. This is great. Surprise guest.
I know. I feel bad. I left Rob in the hallway.
He's been on the show before. He's fine.
I know. He's fine.
He's fine. But we'll jump into our next segment, which is called The Daryl Discussion. In the Daryl Discussion, we're going to talk about two events that are going on. One right now currently is going on
happening.
Downtown Manchester, in town Manchester's Taco Tour 2019. If you haven't been down here, definitely get down here. All of Elm Street's closed from Granite all the way to Bridge Street. I think there's over 60 tacos available. There's tons of lines, but also not lines too. I think it kind of goes in waves. Some had longer lines, but other lines go really quick. I mean, we waited in 2 lines, but they weren't really lines.
No, it was pretty fast.
So we started early.
Went to the fire department.
Went to the Central Fire Department Rescue 1. Said hi to my brother-in-law, Tommy. He's over there making some tacos and hanging out. They had the pork shoulder taco.
Yes.
Dad, what did you think of that one?
It was pretty good. I would have preferred, speaking honestly, the coleslaw was not necessarily dressed. In other words, it was kind of, it was crunchy, and that added to the goodness of it. But a little dressing on the coleslaw would have been.
He's a very hard critic when it comes to food.
Well, I'm a cook.
Well,
so,
I get the one. So there's 2 kinds. You can have one without the spicier sauce, and I think that would have added it.
I think
for
so.
you.
I should have taken.
It was a little spicy, but it was good. Good way to start off. Then we made our way down.
It was delicious.
Down Hanover Street to kind of check out. There was a bunch of long lines. Actually, Hooked Ignite had a very long line for theirs.
They always do.
They had one waiting before it started, too. We parked. There was a line started, and they were waiting till 4. So people were waiting. And we walked down just to kind of check out the whole scene. Had to stop by Campo and say hi to Peter Racone. He was dishing out some falafel tacos. Did you try that one, Brenda?
No, we didn't. I didn't even know Peter was there.
Yeah, he was
hi.
there. Yeah.
Hi, Peter.
He's my neighbor.
I gave him a hard time. I said, "Can you hurry up, please? There's a long line over here. These people need a taco." And he did. I don't think he was talking to him at first because he kind of looked up like, "Who the heck is yelling at me?" He was like, "Oh, Joe, the Dions." But very good falafel taco. I think they had the same one last year. I think they added a little special sauce to it this year. And then which one did we do next? Do you remember?
Mint.
We went down to Mint. There was a little line there, not too bad though. Said hi to our buddy quickly. Tim Baines.
The kind of guy Tim is, he wouldn't take our money.
Just gives us the taco. I know he's too nice over there.
He's great.
He's in a good position over there too. I feel like he's the front of the line,
Yep.
so he can be like, "Hi, I'm your alderman, and get a taco."
Multitasking.
He was handling the money, and I said, "Someone's letting you handle money. What are you doing over here?" But they had a great short rib taco, that they have on their menu for their nachos, which are amazing, and some other dishes. That was really good. Did you try that one? No, I just tried that one. You gave that one to Matt. I gave
that one to Matt. Yeah,
she's such a nice guy.
Well, I tried to be.
And
besides, after the taco I had at the fire department, I was pretty much done. I don't eat a lot, and there's a history behind that, but we won't get into that.
That's another show again.
Oh, yeah.
See, he goes on to these other shows. We should just get him his own show.
No.
You could have your own show.
Why not?
A cooking show.
Oh,
that could be
good.
Yeah, it could be.
Actually, I would kind of enjoy it, and I would like to do something for novice cooks, people who don't know anything about cooking. So you get them in the ground floor, teach them how to do, slice, dice, chop, shred.
The best thing about this is there's a high probability that he could slice his finger on air, and we'd have to censor the whole rest of the show. Okay,
I've been really
swearing.
good. I've been really good the last few years.
When I was a kid, he did all the cooking, and I never forget this. I'm in my room, and I hear him. His hand. It sounds like someone's hand is in a drawer, shuffling around for something. This is him in a knife drawer, just doing this because that's safe.
Yeah.
And I hear him say something I can't say on the radio, and I hear boom. Well, first I heard a, and I thought he stabbed himself. I thought,
oh, I did kind of.
I was going to go in the kitchen and he's on the floor, and he stabbed himself in the hand, and then he took the knife and he threw it away.
That makes sense.
It wasn't a really.
It was a brand
really
new knife.
It wasn't a knife.
It was brand new.
It attacked him.
Oh yeah,
jumped out of the drawer.
They had double blades. It was actually what it was in reality was an onion chopper. It had two blades.
We had
what
that
I
for
failed
about a
to
day.
do is I failed to get a cover for it. So I would just reach it in looking for it, and I was really stupid.
He didn't really look for it. He just
I found
shuffled his hand around. So
all over the
this show could turn into could be canceled in the first episode because he just cuts his hand and it's over.
Or maybe it's like hockey when you're waiting for the fight. It's like you tune in for the sport.
Yeah, exactly.
And then...
We're waiting to see him bleed out.
You know, there are gloves you can wear.
That's too easy.
You know what? Honestly,
yeah.
Amber, I wear gloves a lot.
Yeah.
And I don't cut myself anymore. I rarely burn myself anymore. So I've learned a lot over the last few years.
He has no finger. He has no feelings in his fingers.
No,
but
they're all,
your nerves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we'll get you there with that show. Okay. But the Taco Tour is still going on.
Yes,
it goes on until 9 p.m. They have some great live music over here across on 1000 Elm Street. Amanda McCarthy was out there earlier when we were out there. We saw Mr. Easy G. He was listening to Amanda McCarthy.
And then he called in after.
He called into Matt's show, yeah.
Yes,
so there's some great things going on, some great giveaways. I bought a hat, too. I bought a hat from this new guy I just saw, Granite State Apparel. It's this great hat. We have a caller, and I'm going to bet $1 million that this is Easy G. Thanks for calling the Weekly Dion. Who's this?
Hello.
Hello.
Don't you forget about the pizza taco you had from Cesario.
Oh, sounds like Kyle. Sounds like Kyle.
Heavey. You know what? I was just getting to that.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Thank you for treated me to a pizza taco at Cesario's, which
was it good?
It was delicious. I don't think they normally do one, and it was
I'm not
really
sure
good.
about that myself, but I enjoyed it. You know, I had 13 tacos before I had to leave to go to an event right now. But
Good for you.
Whoa. Where'd you put those 13 there, Kyle?
I mean, it's no secret. I like my taco, and it was a good time. And unfortunately, I got to go to Parkside School for an event right now. But
nice.
You know, gentlemen, keep up the good work with the good show here, and we'll see you later.
All right, thanks for calling in, Kyle.
Take care, guys.
See ya. That's great. Kyle Heavey of Off the Mark Sports.
Cesario's, they didn't have that last year.
Cesario's.
What did I say?
Cesario's.
Ah, right.
That's my favorite.
Tomato.
He announces things. This
Potato. You know.
Sure. Okay. Cesario's. They had a pizza taco, which it was basically the ingredients of a taco on just like a crust.
I saw a little girl eating one. I swear the piece was like the size of her face.
They were big.
They were huge.
Yeah.
It was adorable.
Well, their pieces normally are big, so they cut those in half and served it, and it's a normal piece. But they were really good. It tasted like a taco on a pizza. Mm-hmm. That's how you expect it to taste. And that was a really good one, too. But there's plenty of things to do out there. Like I was saying, Granite State Apparel, Mr. Sean Burke is out there selling some great graphic tees and hats. He's a screen printer and graphic designer. He sells and makes all this stuff out of his house. I bought this great hat over here. It says New Hampshire. Ashley is now shaking her head probably at home going, why did you buy another hat? But I wanted a gray hat, and this is really cool.
Now you got a gray one.
But he does the screen printing himself?
Does the screen printing himself. He made the logo that he has. He's been doing this for a few years now, 2 years as a business. He started this himself, but he's been doing graphic design for a long time.
Our businesses are the same age. Maybe we should collaborate.
Yeah, definitely. I'll give you his card. He's right. Yeah. He actually is right out 1000 Elm Street.
I'll talk to him.
He does a great job. We ran into an old teacher of mine, Mrs. Judy Johnson. She was she's a justice of the peace, and she married him. I think a couple weeks ago. So it was a good connection. What?
That woman I met that was formerly your
She's
teacher?
a justice of the peace. Yeah.
And that guy, they married?
No, she was the justice of the peace for his wedding.
Oh, thank you.
And that was recent.
There was really a big age gap. So that's why I had to question it. I mean, really.
You want to talk about age gap over here? You want to talk about how old you are over here? Jeez. But it's great to see his design, so go check him out for sure. I told him I was going to give him a shout-out because he's doing some great things.
He was at Doubletree last year doing the same thing.
He was, yeah. You mentioned that. Our next event I want to talk about is actually I'm going to have you talk about it. What's going on tomorrow night?
The 6th Annual Seeds of Hope Fashion Show. And the good news is I'm taking your sister, and we're going there.
Nice. What is the Seeds of Hope fashion show?
I'm not really sure. It'll be a first for me. Apparently, there's going to be Peter White, who runs the morning show, John Clayton, who's well-renowned in the city, and Marshal Nick Willard, who is formerly the chief of police here in Manchester.
Yes.
They're going to be on the runway, along with several other people.
You're not going to be on the runway yourself?
No. They use good judgment not to have me do that. I'll
You
be
would
in the
fall off
audience.
the runway.
I'll be in the audience having a ball. They're going to have hors d'oeuvres and drinks. It should be a great time.
You're excited about this.
I'm very excited.
Even though you have no clue what it benefits at all.
Not a clue.
I believe the Norris
Norris Cotton Cancer Foundation.
Thank you. See, I had to. He knows what's
I
going
just need
on.
a little prompt.
I need to
just
prompt
throw me
him.
a little something.
Yeah.
He wants to talk about the fun things.
This is his segment, by the way. This is his segment.
Yeah, I'm going to butcher it big time.
Yes, that's from 7 to
9.
7 to 10 p.m.
7 to
over
10.
at New Hampshire Institute of Art event room. There are still tickets available. You can go on Seeds of Hope on the Facebook page. I've shared the event, I think, a few times. I'll share it again later on. But there are still tickets available. Obviously, tickets are going very quickly. It should be a great show. I know Peter had a rehearsal for.
Right. He had it this morning.
I don't know if he has a dance or something or what he's rehearsing for, but it should be interesting.
Honestly, I think it is a dance.
Are you going to take some video? Take some video.
That would require him to know how to use his phone first, Brenda. Oh. So he might be able to figure it out.
We'll have video.
There's just an
we'll have
icon.
Yeah, I got it.
You
we'll figure it out. You know,
yeah.
I'm
you know what? It's your dad. You're going to be the naysayer.
I'm bringing Samantha so she can assist me in the video taking
She'll
care
do
of.
Go.
She can do it. Yeah.
Excellent.
Absolutely. And you're very mean today.
Maybe I could. She doesn't have Facebook. I couldn't do that.
No.
See if you go Facebook Live from the.
They're also going to have a
show.
silent auction.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's going to be quite a time.
Should be
I'm
a great
really looking
event.
forward to it. I don't get out much, obviously. So.
As you can tell, he doesn't get out much. But actually, in a few weeks, we'll be going to another event. We actually won't have a show on May 16th because we'll be at the Schmooze and Booze event over in Bedford.
Exactly.
Meet a bunch of different people. I'm taking them, though.
I think this is the second year. Is that what you?
I think it's the second annual one. It's a fundraiser, but there'll be some great things going on there, some hors d'oeuvres, and I think there's a DJ, and they're having special contests there, so it should be a good event. We'll talk more about that next week, obviously, but I do want to fit in our next segment because I want to talk about a little trip that I took over the last week because we were off last week because of vacation, so we'll jump into our next segment, but just to remind you, you're listening to the Weekly Dion on 95.3 FM WMNH. If you want to call in and join the conversation at 603-250-6007, we're going to jump into our next segment, which is called Manchester Moments. In Manchester Moments, we talk a little bit about history normally, but I do want to compare the city that me and Ashley took a little trip to over the April vacation. We went to Burlington, Vermont. I don't know if either of you have been to Burlington.
Burlington.
Burlington is interesting to me because we were there. We went there for 2 nights. We stayed 3 days, 2 nights, and the main street there, Church Street, is really cool because it's shut off. They have the cross streets that go in between, but it's kind of an open air market. There's shops, but also there's seats to sit. There's parks, like park benches. And it's a really cool area, and I thought it was interesting because it kind of reminded me of a mix between Manchester and Portsmouth, because you're by Lake Champlain, really scenic area that really building up that waterfront area. That they're building like a hotel and other apartments and stuff. But the city itself reminded me of just an up and coming area, and you can tell they have their challenges and issues, but they're also trying to overcome those. And it was a really nice area. It's in a college town. You go right through the University of Vermont, it was really cool. And it's a huge campus, but it's just a nice area and great coffee too. I'm the sucker for the coffee. We went to this real cool place. It's called Uncommon Grounds, and you walk into the coffee place, and there's a roaster right there, and they had someone like the security guard for the roaster.
What did that smell like?
I imagine if you went to coffee heaven, that's what it smells like in there. Because it's a little warmer than it was outside in there, just because I feel like that the roaster is bringing off heat, but it smells so good. And they have all these different types of coffee. They're called a micro roaster. I didn't know that existed. So they roast their coffee right in-house. And there's a few different places that do that around the area. And they just have some really cool some cool areas. There was also another area we went to, the Radio Bean. So they serve coffee, but also alcohol, and they have a restaurant in the middle of Radio Bean and the lamp shop, which they sell lamps and drinks.
Sure.
Who would have thought?
Okay.
I know.
I mean, I guess it's not as far-fetched as some other things.
It's very specific, but it works. And the whole window has lamps in it, and they just flicker randomly. Like, it's really cool.
Like 1980s style lamps?
All different types of lamps.
Or like lighting goods?
All of them. Yeah. It's different.
Like chandeliers? Or
I don't know if there's chandeliers in there.
candelabras?
I think so. Yeah. So
Pottery
they're all
lamps?
maybe.
Sconces?
I'm impressed at the amount of types of lighting you just named.
Drop lighting?
They could be.
Pendants?
We're gonna just keep going.
Flashlights.
We're gonna have to check that out.
Flashlights.
So there's these three places, and the restaurant in the middle, which I cannot remember the name of right now, houses the food for all three places. And there's a pretty much door connecting each of them. You can go straight through, but each place has its own individual identity. But also they serve the restaurant food. And Radio Bean actually has a place for live music that people like to go to and perform. That we caught some live music. This guy was really, really good. It was just a surprising little adventure. And I feel like that reminded me of Manchester, because you kind of come upon these things that you didn't think were going to happen. And you're just like, huh, what's this? And it's a really cool time. So we're definitely going to go back later on. They're just kind of starting up their summer events or their spring events with different tours. So we'll definitely go back when it's warmer out. So, well, how are your feelings on Burlington, Vermont, Brenda? I think you said you went to Burlington.
Oh, yeah, we love Burlington. We love Burlington, Vermont. My husband and I are, like, when people watched Portlandia,
yes,
that is us.
Cut it out.
Yeah, that is us. Like, we're meat eaters, but if you're like, oh, and this is our chicken Fred, and it was hand-fed and plump and, like, loved, and now you're going to eat him, that is us. That is us. So
So you do know that show is whacked.
Yeah.
I love that show.
Yeah.
It is so nuts.
We appear sane and wonderful, but I mean,
Those people do as well.
I don't, to a certain extent.
I
know
love that
what?
show.
Oh, it's
Be
crazy. Wow.
And
So
Portlandia
Burlington is very much like like Burlington.
I could see that for
Except
sure.
more grounded. It's a much more like grounded New England
Yes.
kind of.
Now, the Portlandia thing
Portlandia.
is primarily from a Seattle base, right?
Yeah.
Portland.
From Portland, Oregon.
Portland, right.
Come
Oregon,
on, come
Oregon.
on, Dad. Put the-
Sorry,
come
sorry.
on.
I'm, geographically challenged.
It's okay.
West Coast.
West
Yes,
Coast.
West
I got
Coast.
it.
But yeah, and one thing I noticed, the one word that we always use in New England for the most part, but New Hampshire a lot more, is wicked. Wicked is that word. In Burlington, Vermont, you know what that word is? Can you guess, Brenda?
No, what is
Every person that we talked to, interacted with, whether it was a server, a hostess, a person that works in a store, or just someone on the street, chill. Everything is chill. For
Really?
1 second, you talk to someone for 5 seconds or 1 second, it was chill.
It
was interesting.
I thought that term was kind of passe. Is it?
Well,
Or
I
not?
feel that
No.
they were very relaxed vibe.
Very.
Okay.
Very
in
relaxed.
Vermont.
Yeah.
And college kids say chill, so it can't be uncool.
It wasn't actually. It's funny
Right,
because there was a lot of college kids, but it was mostly the people you could tell that were from around there.
Yeah.
Because we talked to the server that we had at our first place we went for lunch. This great Mexican place that was in a, I think it was like a trailer that had like a train trailer that they changed into like this diner looking Mexican restaurant. It was delicious. Yeah, it was like a box. Yeah, it was like a box car. It looked like it should have been a diner, but it was a Mexican restaurant. And so we talking to that guy about recommendations for different food, and he described all of them as chill. Every single one was, this place is really chill. And I'm like, it's very cold here. We have to bundle up. Everything's really chilly here. I didn't make that joke, but it was just funny that.
So that's
was cool.
like a reference to like what people use now. It's like dope.
I don't think anyone says dope anymore.
Nobody says dope anymore.
No.
That's passe.
That is actually
So is passe, actually. Passe is passe.
Stop it.
Listen, it's French Canadian here. Passe is never passe.
You're talking
Absolutely.
to the capital of French Canadian people over here is my dad.
Merci beaucoup.
Listen. There is no English pronunciation of my name.
It's funny. Your last name, I think, I've heard pronounced differently by every person that knows you.
That's true.
Okay, so
It's
correct
awesome.
me. Nozu?
Nope.
Noise.
Okay, then Nose.
You've got to open up your nose.
Okay,
You're gonna open it up,
I've said
and like in allergy season, it's a really good time to say my last name. It's Noiseux.
How do you
Noise.
spell it?
Noise.
It's Noiseux.
S-E-U-X.
Yeah, so you need that you gotta
Absolutely.
in there.
Yeah. That
A
works.
lot of
That
people
works.
put the A in, so they
As in
think it's
oiseau.
oh. And it's like no.
Noiseau. Absolutely.
I like that. I like that. Like
Open
that a
up
lot.
your nose.
That's a good way to explain it too.
I know.
Yeah, allergy season. I like that.
Pretty much. I know. Which is why I didn't take my husband's last name, because it's green. Like, green. Green. It's a great
Yours
last
is molto bene. Molto
Oh,
bene.
see. Now we're switching languages. See?
Again, that's a different show.
I can't do that.
Not this show
All
over
right.
here.
But speaking of husbands, I should probably go collect him, because I kind of just left him in the hallway.
Yeah, he was hanging pretty good. I asked him to come in,
And he was.
and he declined.
I know. But I feel kind of bad. I'm like, I want to go be supportive. And goodbye.
See ya.
It's okay. We're wrapping up right now, so he can wait a few more minutes.
Okay,
He's
fine.
fine out there. But we have to wrap up the show a little bit. We have a lot going on, but give a few shout-outs before we close up the show. Obviously, all my listeners on WMNH, thanks for tuning in on the radio or on WMNHradio.org or on Facebook Live. We had a few people pop into Angela Philbrook, my wife Ashley. Thank you for listening.
Oh, yeah,
Heidi
Ashley.
Hamer, and then Hunty's in there too. She's on Facebook Live.
Unbelievable.
It's great.
She's come a long way,
I know.
really.
It's awesome. Give a big shout out to the morning show with Peter White. He's judging the tacos right now, so hopefully we'll hear from him tomorrow morning on the judgment of the tacos. He ate tons of tacos probably. He's going to be really full tomorrow.
Yeah, I think he said he's had 20. Yike.
That's a lot, yeah.
20.
Not
And
full.
we suggested, because we knew he was going to be a judge, just take one bite out of the taco.
Is that how they usually do that?
I think
Oh,
the first couple he ate the whole thing.
I guess he was really hungry.
Yeah.
So he sloshed down 20 and
He didn't slosh down all 20. He had a few
several.
first.
Several.
We'll find out tomorrow what
Yes,
really
we will.
happens. Listen to the morning show with Peter White every weekday from 7 to 9 a.m. Great way to wake up and start your morning off right. Also, Matt Connerton Unleashed every weekday from 4 to 6 p.m. talks about current events and politics. Another great show right on before us. Amber, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for
Oh,
having me.
this
pleasure.
is great. This is great. I've had many toys to play with today.
Yes, you did play with a lot of them.
Brenda, thanks for popping in.
Hey,
Surprise guest.
No problem.
It was great.
No problem. So wait, I have a burning question. Your
Yes.
listeners want to know. Which is your favorite slime?
Good question.
I like that.
Which one was your favorite?
Go by the colors.
I'm going to go with the glow.
The glow slime.
Oh, glow slime. That's a solid.
I wanted to create a darkness in this room so we could really get impacted by it, but
Did Ben say you couldn't?
he
No.
said I
It's
couldn't.
against the
It's
rules.
all Ben's fault.
It
There
is.
are rules.
All Ben's fault.
Yeah.
It's always Ben's
This is my
fault.
classroom. This is a rule.
So mean to you today.
I meet him every day. It's part of the show.
I'm used to it, you know.
I'm actually a lot nicer when I'm off the radio. People are probably like, that's not true. It depends what day it is.
Family picks on each other, right?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly. Next week on the Weekly Dion, you have to tune in to find out what we have on next week. I'm going to keep it a surprise, but we'll should be a great show again. Also, don't forget to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at The Weekly Dion for updates, picture from Manchester, and interesting stories about the city. Listen to us every Thursday night live right here on WNH 95.3 FM at 6 p.m. with replays of the show on Saturday and Sunday at 11 a.m. and Tuesdays at 6 p.m. or throughout the week on wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can listen to all the previous shows on Podbean from WMNH. Also, you can catch the replays on Facebook Live and now on YouTube. All of them will be placed on WMNH YouTube page, so you can watch them live or the recorded versions right on YouTube too. Thanks for listening, and until next time, live and be happy.